Who did you speak to before coming here, before joining Motherwell? In terms of anyone that played here before, or?
No, I didn't speak to anyone. When I first came here, I spoke to Nathaniel Atkinson, who was at Hearts. We were previously in the under 23 team together. Played against each other a couple of times, and I just simply asked him how Scotland is and the league and the players and what it's like playing against Rangers and Celtic. And he had really good words to say to me.
Appreciate your game time's been limited due to injury, but before we get to that, what have you made of the game here?
Yeah, it's much quicker than Australia. Time on the ball is very limited here. You've got to make decisions very, very quickly. There's some quality in individual players where, you know, you can simply give them the ball and they'll produce something. So, not saying that Australia doesn't have those sorts of players, but Australia probably does have maybe one or two in each team, whereas Scotland teams, you know, have 3 or 4 of those players that can really make a difference.
Was it a big decision for you to make the move away on the other side of the world? It's your first move away, isn't it?
Correct. First move overseas. Basically on the other side of the world, it takes about 24 hours to get back home. So it's not just a simple flight back home to family or anything like that. But it was a no-brainer for me. It's something that I've worked towards for many years now as a professional footballer. Even as a child, playing in Europe was one of my dreams, and I constantly would tell my dad, you know, that's the one thing that I want to do when I grow up.
Yeah. And
did you follow the careers of any Australians that were here at that time, just as you were a kid?
Not so much. I was following the Premier League more so. I can't name anyone. I remember Tommy Rogic playing here, obviously, and whenever he would play for the national team, he would always be our star player. And for him to be at Celtic so many years, you know, having the choice to just retire after, he's a club legend at Celtic and a known name in the league. And obviously Aaron Moy moving to Celtic, you know, Daniel Arzani as well, not having a long stint, as well as Marco Attilio. But that's about it for the Australians. I didn't really keep up much with Scottish football.
Was it quite tough though when you had your injury and you're out and you are so far away from family and friends and you're fully committed to coming here and then all of a sudden you're not being able to play?
Yeah, but I know I was very excited to come. I got here and obviously not being here before felt very different, and I was excited for the season to get going. Australian pre-season is over 3.5 months, whereas the season here is 6 months. 6 weeks. So knowing that, I was ready to play games, and unfortunately, the first week I suffered an injury, which not everyone would like to hear. You know, having sit out 3 months, missing pre-season, missing the start of the season, it's hard to get back into the squad and playing and even match fitness for yourself. And mentally, you know, it's challenging being away from family and friends, but you always have the love and support from people, even if they aren't in person. So it was good.
Johnny, when you returned from injury under the previous manager, the previous manager obviously made the decision to bring you to the club, but when you actually got back fit, I don't think you actually started a game under the previous manager, and your first start was actually under the current manager now. How was that for you when you actually returned from injury to then be fit and ready to win the team, but you still weren't getting selected?
Yeah, I can't really say much on the old gaffer's behalf in terms of his decision making, because in the end of the day, it is football. Coaches have the end decision, but for me, the principle that I fall back on is to just work as hard as possible, and things will fall into place. Coming back from injury, it wasn't the easiest because I didn't know, you know, the pace of the game, and it probably took me about 2 to 3 weeks to adapt to the football. But after that, it was just building fitness, and that's just how it went. I guess the gaffer before made his decisions based on what he felt like was the best team going forward into each match, and honoured to make my starting debut when the new gaffer came in. like I said, I fall back on the principles of working hard, and that wasn't something, I decided to just do when the new gaffer came in. It's always been, a non-negotiable for me, and that's why it's brought me here to Scotland.
When you made your first start, you played at right wing back against Dundee United. You played really well in that game. But when you came on as a substitute recently against Hearts, you played on the right hand side of the back three. Is that a position that you'd ever played before?
Yes. So I actually only played right back the last 2 years of my career. Prior to that was the right side of the back three, from 18 till 24 years old. So early part of my career, I was learning off some of Australia's most capped players, having their help. So I know the position quite well. It's not too dissimilar to here, besides the pace of the game, and obviously I think it's the back and forth that I can't get used to with Scottish football. In Australia, it's more played on the ground, where it's a bit more cagey, these games, so you've got to be on the ball all the time. So
that's what I was going to say, because the differences between those two positions, particularly in that league, has got to be quite extreme, because you've got to be using so much energy going up the right hand side playing at right wing back, whereas how many aerial duels are you going to be competing in when you're playing in the right of the back three as well?
Now that you say that, yeah, I mean, I competed with the most I've competed in a game, to be honest with you, in that position for headers. Where in Australia, it's much more on the ground, and that you can anticipate when the ball's coming over, because it very rarely comes over. But here it's people just go first time, and you're not expecting it. Like I said, you have to be on the ball all the time.
Who are those capped, very high cap players that you?
Nigel Bogard. I think he's got over 250 games in the A-League, and Nikolai Topol-Stanley. He played in. He actually won the Asian Champions League with Western Sydney Wanderers, the first Asian Champions League to be won by an Australian team. So bucket loads of experience, and they taught me really well over the years.
Would you say this is a chance for you? It sounds like with the injuries in the back three that you could have a run of games there. Is it a big chance for you to show that you can play in two positions and that you can be a real asset to the squad next season and beyond as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the positive about being versatile is you can fit into positions where needed, and I think the knowledge that I've gained over the last couple of years I can definitely apply to this league, and like I said, I apply myself 100% all the time, so the club, the fans won't get anything less from me.
It's obviously you're not the only Australian here. Most of us came over at this very similar time, but unfortunately had a similar experience early on when you get injured as well. Obviously you wouldn't want to be hanging about the treatment room together, but did that help, having both of you having each other to talk about the similar experiences as well?
Absolutely. AP and I are very close, probably even closer now that we've both come to the club. We're both from the same city, played against each other when we were 12 years old. So it's funny how football brings players together after so many years, but it's always comforting, especially being Greek heritage as well. We share a lot of similar principles, and he's an easy guy to get along with, and especially with the injury. I think we were injured at the same time together. At coming toward the end of my injury, start of his injury. And I think it just gave us a bit of time to sort of focus on getting back to full fitness rather than just football. And we went to Glasgow, went to Edinburgh. We absorbed the culture. So it was, I guess there's payoffs there, I guess. But yeah, AP's a good boy.
You mentioned when you were younger, but obviously Australia's sports mad, very, very sports. Was football always your goal? If dabbling in anything else when you were younger, cricket, Aussie rules, anything like that?
Yeah. I used to play Aussie rules. I used to play tennis as well. But it got to a point where Dad was like, I can't be taking you everywhere. You're going to have to pick one sport. So football was obviously the one that I picked because it was the one that I watched. I played I spoke about with Dad. I started at 4 years old, joined an under-6 team, so it was my whole life, and it was a no-brainer.
Aussie rules prepare you for those aerial challenges?
You go up with the hands, so you're not just going up with the head, so it's a bit different, but I guess it did a little bit.
Johnny, are you comfortable speaking about when you were diagnosed with cancer?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Can you talk us through what that period was like? Can I imagine?
Yeah. As a 20-year-old, I'm sure everyone probably thought they were invincible at 20 years old, you know. And then one morning, woke up with a lump at the base of my neck, and not thinking too much of it because never experienced anything like that before. Just went on about my day as per normal. We had a trial match against one of the local teams in Newcastle. Played the game and I was awful. On the ball, awful, felt awful. Come Monday, I saw the specialist. He took a biopsy, and then from that Monday, 10 days later, I was in surgery. And 2 days before surgery, I got told that it was cancer. Lucky enough, it was stage 1 thyroid cancer, so I consider myself one of the lucky ones. But very, very daunting. I had my mum with me at the time we got told. It was a bit of a blur at that stage because I wanted to stay strong for my family, because as parents, as brothers and sisters, you never want to hear one of your immediate family hearing that they have cancer or anything like that. So I was probably the strongest one, and then I would say probably 2 to 3 years later, maybe even 1, you know, reflecting back on it, it was quite a daunting experience, something that not many people go through, maybe at the end of stage of their life, but no, I actually find it very humbling. I think I was very humbled at a young age. Bad to say, but I think that's the reality, especially the way people handle themselves now, especially the younger people. But no, it was a learning curve. I learnt a lot about myself, and I learnt about all the people that I had around me who loved me and support me. So it's a big eye-opener.
Thanks for sharing that with us.
No, it's okay.
Appreciate it.
It's okay.
It must put smaller injuries into perspective though, as well. Like when you are out and you're injured and you're sitting and you're thinking, oh, this is rubbish, I'm at the other side of the world and I'm looking at, so I suppose it puts it entirely in perspective.
100%. The bigger picture is, you know, it's not the end of the world with a small injury, or if you're not selected for the team, or if you're having an argument with the coach or another player. It's really not the end of the world. There's more to it than football in the end of the day. Even though football is our life, you got to look at things in a bigger perspective, in a bigger picture.